Yes, I think there's something wrong with your time stream. Yaz!
They're here.
Okay.
We're unstuck in time. Where's a Tralfamadorian when you need one? Welcome to episode 428 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 16th of November, 2021, and featuring FLUX episode 3, Once Upon Time, written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Joe Martin as the Doctor, Mandip Gill as Yaz, John Bishop as Dan, and for once, Jacob Anderson as Vinder gets more screen time than Craig Ells as Carvinist just to throw us off. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and I need to stop watching the opening on Twitch because it delays me just enough that I'm surprised when Matt says to talk. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Once I have absolutely no idea what Bill is talking about in the opening instead of the other way around.
Alex Fireheart.
Very much wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
And Mad Matt Winchell.
My throat is dying.
So you never read or watched Slaughterhouse-5?
If I have, it was once,
Gotcha.
and it was a long time ago.
It was
I
only
think-
once
I
in
think
high
it was
school.
in-
Oh, sorry.
I think it was in high school.
Mm-hmm. It was only once in high school for me, but it was just like, it was so unlike anything else we were reading at the time that it really stuck out in our minds.
Nope, it didn't really stick out to me.
Yeah. As you could hear from the opening, Matt is not out sick, but he is in sick.
I am holding myself together as best I can. At least
Matt's
it's not
just-
completely voice going like it was last week.
It's just sick at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us already knew that.
Get her, you're one sick puppy.
All right, well, apparently Matt's been ill all week. How the rest of us been?
Pretty good. I've in the I was most of the way moved over to the granny flat out the back of my parents' place, and now I'm like pretty much almost, because I'm there right now. Finally, so all of my gaming shit and whatever is moved over there. And the router that I ordered showed up quicker than I was expecting. If it had arrived when the estimated time gave, it would have shown up today. So thankfully I actually got it last Friday. And it is better than the home Wi-Fi and internet in general. So whatever issues I would normally have when in a call with people from the United States will probably not happen this week and moving forward. So that's great. And also
news.
I even the internet is decent enough that now the only issue when I use OBS to stream, and even then my laptop can only handle like just me talking, and not like streaming games or anything. And even then, it would probably only be able to stream games that were on my laptop, even if I did try. But yeah, like I did a watch along stream for the latest AEW pay-per-view. And Erin was there as well for it. And then it was only really because she pointed it out to a point that I realized, oh shit, the stream crashed. So note to self, I can apparently do it for maybe 2.5 hours, and then it's like it just shits the bed or something. Like I did one on like later that day, and like when I'd been going for almost 3 hours, it like once again just kind of, it didn't kill the stream, but it froze. And when it unfroze, I was like, okay, I'm just going to call it this so it doesn't crash on me again. Yeah, so it's, so long as I keep those kinds of things short, I should probably be able to manage those from now on. So that's going to be fun.
All right. How about you, Bill?
So I'm especially sore right now because Monday I finished my last day of personal training, which means I have a bunch of exercises in my email in terms of helping build endurance, building up heart strength, things like that. But in the meantime, yeah, my rest day is Wednesday, and then I had to walk all over the place today, so my body hates me, but I can live with it. But yeah, it's been an interesting experience. Part of me says interesting journey because it's technically the end of my personal training, but it's really more the start than the beginning. Because now my job is to motivate myself to keep it up without having an appointment every second one day.
Yeah.
Or hopefully anyway, because I can pay to get more personal training, but at this point, it's the habit that I really need to build. Outside of that, and related to that, I did buy a Fitbit just to keep track of things better, and so that my phone isn't trying to pull down my pants if I exercise in sweats. Outside of that, school is school. I have two 20 page papers due in 3 weeks that I haven't technically started writing yet. But that's life, and I'm coping.
Okay. I haven't done much in the past week. Been enjoying the new laptop. Watched a little bit of TV, but nothing complete enough that I can talk about.
Have you installed everything that you're going to install?
I haven't installed OBS yet, just because I haven't had the need to. But most of the other stuff's been installed, yeah. The weekend kind of came and went on me. Oh, yes, the medication I mentioned I was taken off of, I'm now back on to see if the symptoms resurface.
Oh.
So we'll see. Thus far, I have not had one of them, but I definitely have had one of the others. So we'll have to see how that goes.
From my end, despite my head cold, I have been going to work and things have been okay physically. It's just that every once in a while I need to take a break, either to try and clear my throat or blow my nose. Also, we have lost 2 more coworkers, at least temporarily, because they suddenly became sick.
In other words, the crud is creeping.
So a whole list of hours just kind of went up for the next couple of weeks, and it's just like I would help, but I'm particularly heavy on hours already this week. Like I only get, I had off yesterday, and I only get off again on Friday, and I believe I'm on for another 3 days at least.
Well, do remember you're sick, so try not to take extra hours.
Or I
you
took
don't want to
one
get
extra
worse.
day, and that was
Mm.
Friday. Yeah, that was Friday, and that was supposed to be a 3 until close, which is 11:30. It turned into 12:30.
Yeah.
Just could not be helped to the outside of trying to get everything done that needed to get done. But other than that, yeah, everything else is fine.
Well, anyway, why don't we go ahead and start the show here while Matt's voice is lasting.
Oh yeah, and if I need to, I'll be turning on and off my microphone, and that'll explain any popping people might be hearing.
Might have to, too, for the occasional sneeze. I have had a little bit of a seasonal adjustment allergies.
I wish it was just allergies. God, I wish it was only allergies.
Anyway, on tonight's show, we've got birthdays. We have a little bit of news. We have some geek talk. And then our episode summary, our review, and our final thoughts. All right, starting it off with birthdays. First birthday is November 10th. And it was the birthday of one of our favorite writers, Neil Gaiman. He wrote in 2006, 2007. Oh, wait, that doesn't sound right. 2011, 2012. I don't know what happened to my
Series 6, Series 7.
Series 6, Series 7. Yes, I don't know why suddenly my brain put that, but I was a little distracted when typing up birthdays. So yeah, he was a writer 2011, 2012. He turned 61. On the same day is the birthday of Claire Higgins, who played Ohelia. Or is that Ohila? Whatever. The leader of the Sisterhood of Karn. From 2013 to 2016, she turned 66. Then, as mentioned right before the podcast started, on the 12th is the birthday of our own Alex Fireheart.
Yay.
Happy birthday.
How old did you turn?
I turned 31, which means I am 30 years and 2 days younger than Neil Gaiman.
I'm sure that's a distinction. Also, on the 14th is the birthday of Paul McGann, who played the Doctor in 1996 and again briefly in 2013. He turned 62. So everybody but Alex turned somewhere in their 60s for our birthdays. You just had to come along and ruin the trend. Just buck the trend there.
It's the only way he gets to feel young.
I mean, to be fair, I've been getting a lot of white hairs for ages, so I feel a lot older.
Oh, no. You have no idea. I'll be sitting here playing a game or something, and just one white hair will just pop down right in front of my glasses, going, "Here I am, here I am." I'm like, I thought I got rid of you last week, bitch.
Half the time, I could probably pass for, like, if I had more hair on top, I could probably pass for Reed Richards with the amount of white hair I'm starting to get on the sides.
Great.
Oh, that's more than me then. I've only gotten a bit around the temples.
Ha! I look younger than all of you. Not a visible gray hair on my head.
Yes, but you look like you should be in a log cabin in the woods with a bear for a roommate.
No, that'll be in a couple months.
Especially in the winter.
That'll be in a couple months. I don't look like Kenny Loggins right now.
Don't look like you're signing up for ZZ Top?
Nope. Like I said, a couple months. When the snow hits and it actually sticks, that's when the beard is officially off board the checklist for shaving.
Oh, we
We-
had
we-
sticking snow for a few hours here.
For a few
we-
hours isn't enough.
We kind of had the
days.
same. It was a mixture of like it was that what they call wintry mix on the weather apps. Rain, sleet, and snow or rain, hail, and snow at the same time.
Yeah, wintry mix is a sign for me that goes, I don't want to drive.
Hmm.
Because it has my least favorite winter driving condition, freezing rain.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Freezing rain is.
freezing rain is one of those things I'm like, no.
Freezing
I've
rain
already
is one
lost-
of those. Sorry, go ahead.
I already lost one car to freezing rain. I don't
Mhm.
want to lose another.
The one good thing about freezing rain is if you like to take photos of trees and stuff afterward. But actually doing anything after freezing rain is always a nightmare.
Yeah, no. No.
Unless it's putting down salt, in which case you just walk on the salt.
I will wait till the plows come through with their salt and that, but yeah. Of course, here's Alex going down where it's warm, going, what the fuck are they talking about? Freezing what?
That water that you get out of the sky freezes here.
It just hits
I mean,
the
like-
ground and sink.
It's the ground if you're lucky. Hits the power lines if you're not. Although they might not have power lines out there either. They might be underground like they are in most civilized countries. Yay, America.
Yeah,
I mean,
I have
Upgrading
a friend.
infrastructure? What's that?
I have a friend. You go outside his house, you hear the buzzing of those power lines right above there. I'm like, that can't be healthy.
Transformers just more than meets the ears.
Yeah. How the hell did we get on this conversation?
I don't know.
Snow, which started. I don't remember why we started talking about snow. Oh, Matt's beard.
Oh, right.
Which started from us talking about white hairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So that would be
happy
end of
birthday
birthdays.
to Neil, Claire, Alex, and Paul. And let's move on to current episode news before we go on a further tangent down and completely derail the train.
I
Okay,
think
so
really there is a reason where we're trying to delay, but anyway.
Series 13, Episode 3, overnight ratings. Episode 3 has an overnight viewing figure of 3.76 million viewers. This is down about 200,000 from last week. These numbers are unofficial and will be replaced by the Barb's 4-panel numbers next week. The AI for this episode is 75, which is the lowest in New Who history. This prompted Bill to do some looking up of stuff. And we think for the Chibnall era, the average AI was like 78, 79, 80, somewhere in there.
Right.
But you go back into the Moffat era, and those were sometimes in the high 80s, low 90s.
But I also, in addition to that, I think what hurts this series is that Doctor Who viewers are not accustomed to this type of serialized storytelling anymore. They're accustomed to two-parters, but neither episode 1 nor episode 3, which are the lowest rated episodes this season, even really fit with two-parters. They're very clearly, they're part of a story structure that only works if you expect a long-form story. Whereas episode 2 is kind of an episodic story. It's part of the larger plot, but you could watch it by itself and only one subplot would be confusing, which I think is part of why it's the highest. I mean, there's other reasons it's the highest rated this season, but I think that's definitely part of it. Whereas episode 1 and episode 3, if this was not a 6-episode story, would not make any sense whatsoever. And I think a lot of people are looking at them and rating them as if they were standalone stories because that's what they've done since they've been watching Doctor Who, at least for fans who have been watching since only the past 20 years, which is still a long period of time.
Yes, there's a reason we decided not to rate these
Yeah.
every single week, because we would be going, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions that they need to answer in episodes 5 and 6 that would really affect how we rate episodes 1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they keep introducing little plot threads that if they don't tie up by the end, is going to hurt them. But at the same time, if they do tie them up, then we're going to go, even if we don't agree to them, we're still going to go, okay, at least that's wrapped up. And in fact, they're apparently looking to wrap up stuff from the previous season. So
yeah, as long as they don't wrap it up with a room of.
They better, because they only got what, 3 specials after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they don't wrap it up with a room of people saying Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who again.
No. That was Moffat's thing. Let's not.
No, we could do much worse. Let's just break the universe. Give me the wrench. And chisel.
I mean, that happened in episode 1, really.
Yeah.
It's not getting any better.
Yeah. Okay. So, episode 2, War of the Santarans. The consolidated and 4-panel ratings are 5.02 and 5.1 million viewers, respectively. This made Doctor Who the 13th most watched show in the UK last week. That's a little down from 9th, and it's out of the top 10, so. As a side, we do have the title for episode 5. It is Survivors of the Flux. That means we're only missing the final episode title.
That still makes it sound like an E. coli breakout. Just saying they could have named it something better.
Like what?
The season. Like,
you see, for me, it sounds like a freaking game, but that's me.
I mean, as we mentioned in episode 1, the flux could have just as much been the entropy wave.
Yes. That's what it looked like.
I guess Doctor Who entropy wave wouldn't have quite the same ring to it.
No, it wouldn't have. They could have just called it the end of the universe.
True.
But that would make the entire season an X with a Y.
Not out of place for Doctor
Universe's End?
No, then it sounds like a restaurant.
Time's End.
Time's End. Ooh.
Oh, Time's End. But then they're impinging on my trademarks. Thank you.
I mean, based on what seems to be the plot, Time Strikes Back.
Oh, George Lucas is going to sue somebody. Well, actually, be Disney now, but still.
Well, I don't want to cause us to go. I mean, it's still Doctor Who related, but I don't want to cause us to be completely on a tangent. So moving on.
All right, so we do have one other piece of news this week, and that is they announced that for Series 14, filming is going to be moved from the BBC's FLUX Studios in Cardiff to Wolf Studios, also in Cardiff. This is where Russell T. Davey and Julie Gardner's Bad Wolf Company is located. As we mentioned a few weeks ago when we first heard that they were taking over, it's only about a 5-6 block move. This isn't the first time in Doctor Who history, in New Who history, that it has moved from one studio to another. In the early seasons of Doctor Who, it was being filmed by BBC Wales wherever they had time, usually in studios that were just outside of Newport. around 2010, the BBC basically merged all these outlying studios into one big BBC Wales studio, which is what FLUX became.
Hmm.
And then that's Doctor Who has been filming there ever since, for at least its in-studio filming. But now it'll be moved to slightly new quarters.
Hmm.
As Bill and I were speculating, it's only a few blocks away, and it's not like, if they have a massive set piece that won't fit in their studios, that I'm pretty sure they can say to the BBC, yeah, we need to borrow a studio at FLUX for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I wonder if this is making room for something the BBC wants to film that we don't know about.
It's possible.
Could be. Yeah.
It's just possible that it's part of the contract
Right.
between BBC and Bad Wolf Studios.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, at least
Yeah,
what
yeah.
little they've talked about what the deal is that they've basically given full control over Doctor Who over to Bad Wolf, at least for the production and the direction, etc.
Mm-hmm. So it's like they've just basically licensed the third party to do everything, and then they'll just take the finished product,
Basically.
Yeah.
stamp the BBC name on it,
Mm-hmm.
and Bad Wolf their check, and they get the credits and the credits. We'll see how that goes. Because I know Chibnall almost wanted to do the same thing. But that would involve moving Doctor Who out of Wales to where Chibnall studios were in the north. And the BBC wasn't quite ready to do that.
Yeah.
Which you almost would think they're doing because everything is kind of set in the north in the Chibnall era.
That's Chibnall's domain, because yeah. I think that's because he's used to writing for the north. Out of curiosity.
Because it's funny because this also reminded me that Bad Wolf Studios is getting acquired by, was it Sony Pictures Television? Something?
That is currently a rumor.
Oh yeah, it hasn't officially happened yet, as far as we're aware.
Yeah. Okay. So, Broadchurch was Chibnall's, and that was supposed to be in Dorset, which is not in the north, oddly enough. Yet he seems to write for that a lot more than who knows? Who knows? But anyway, so that will be happening. That's where Series 14 will be filming with the new Doctor and, all the sets and anything that they need to hold over from this series to the next, I guess will be carted over the 4 or 5 blocks unless they say, yeah, we're going to film the closeout for these sets here. I mean, we're basically just talking about the TARDIS set, let's face it.
Yeah.
Which, knowing what we know about new showrunners for Doctor Who will last approximately 1 episode. Where it will be consumed in fire.
And somehow come back as a new, completely different studio.
Assuming that didn't happen in the Centenary special, which was already filmed and features a regeneration.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, that has been filmed. But that might just be where they're leaving it, just giving them room to make a new set.
The mill is waiting on RTD to say how much damage is actually done to the TARDIS.
I'm personally still wondering if right now Russell T Davies is ringing Murray Gold's phone, going, "Please come back, please come back,
Murray, please, Murray. Totally want you back on the show, Murray. Come on, man.
Come on, we want you to compose now. We loved your stuff. The new guy, not so good. We need your magic touch. Come on, Murray.
Come on, Murray. You know you want to do it. You've had a long enough break. You got some new ideas, right?
I kind of hope not, because I don't want to get to the point where they're like, okay, RTD's second era is done, and now we have literally nobody ready to do Doctor Who because they've all been doing it for 20 plus years.
At the same time, I mean, the BBC is trying to really do something about the quality level free fall
Mhm.
that it's been going through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based on the audience appreciations, we're not the only one that thinks that it's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, it's been what, almost 20 years since 2005,
Yeah,
and
we'll have to see
it'll
if he's
be
actually got some fresh ideas to bring back to the show, or if everything's gotten rusty.
it'll be 2023 when they get this started.
Yep.
So it'll be 18 years since they started it before. That's pretty much trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice. We'll have to see.
Mhm.
All right. So the only other
It's just
news
a
we
big
have,
finish.
yep, is Big Finish new releases. There are two. The first is Jenny, the Doctor's Daughter, still running with Georgia Tennant. Yes, she is officially Georgia Tennant now, not Georgia Moffat. Well, yes, we know she got married, but that does not mean she had to change her stage name. She has. And also, Unit Nemesis Between Two Worlds with Jenna Redgrave and Ingrid Oliver. So, they're still making Unit audios, too.
Oh,
And that's it for Big
I
Finish
just
news.
noticed in the unit one they got Tom Baker on there.
Yeah, I think he's in the curator role.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
The air quotes curator.
Mm-hmm.
That does sound interesting enough to pique my curiosity, but I think there's enough Big Finish audios I want to see more that I would still buy before this. The unit ones, I haven't heard any of the Gemma Redgrave era unit ones, but the unit ones I have picked up have been kind of all over the place in quality. Some of them are downright boring, and I mean, there's been at least like 3 or 4 eras of unit in Big Finish history, so that's not saying much. But there's no guarantee of being interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Although with Tom Baker, I imagine it'll at least be entertaining.
Oh yeah, well Tom Baker's always entertaining.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you could give him an instructional or a nutrition facts sheet from a loaf of bread, and he'll somehow make it entertaining.
He was
Yes,
the best thing about the D&D movie.
Coming next from Big Finish Audio, Tom Baker reads the British phone book. Okay.
Does anyone call it Sid anymore?
That's all the news we have this week. So moving on to Geek Talk. Apparently, we start off with Bill having watched something that I've already watched.
Yep. So I finally caught up with Marvel's What If, which I know a few people here covered a few weeks ago, and I forget what all you all said about it. Partially because I was trying not to spoil myself too much. But so looking at it, it was all right. It wasn't. I would say, it didn't blow me away with the storytelling, but it wasn't like, oh, this was a waste of time either. It was okay, kind of fun, worth it for, a 30-minute animated episodes. Some of them were more interesting than others.
Some of them I found to be impressive. Others I found to be really convoluted.
Yeah, right, and I agree with that. Some of them, it's just like, oh, okay, these characters are still going to get together because they got together in canon, and even though it kind of paints the characters in a worse light than canon actually did. The part that I actually found the most contrived was the big team up at the end, and I understand why they did it. But allegedly, these heroes were drawn from across the multiverse because they were the best suited for the fight that they were being recruited for. The problem is I can't really buy that because, for example, I don't think the existence of Captain Carter is really a spoiler at this point. She's,
No.
she's been on everything about the show. She's been kind of the flagship. Her main thing is, what if a different person got the same powers? And so it's not exactly like she's more powerful than Steve Rogers. She's not. She has a different personality. She has a different character. But in terms of what she accomplishes in a fight, I don't think she's noticeably different. And
No.
you can maybe argue she has some different skills. She might have some different skills, but I don't think one versus the other makes a massive difference in a superpower fight. Just as an example.
At the same time, I mean, the Watcher says this, but you notice the Watcher just recruited people from the dimensions that the Watcher personally watched. So
yeah, and that's kind of it. They were chosen because they were episodes of the show. Another example is they arguably chose what would probably be the least effective Thor in the multiverse, except for maybe Throg. Throg might be less effective. But the Thor that they chose for the fight was really not one I would pick to have my back in a fight. And the reasoning there was also very shallow.
I refer to him as frat boy Thor.
So, go ahead.
As far as the Captain Carter thing goes, I basically take it as them wanting to ease people into the concept with like, well, here's a very simple switch.
Right, but
like,
what I mean
is this?
the idea that they were all the right people for the right moment, it makes sense for some of them, especially the ones that are the strongest versions of their character, but it doesn't stand up to close scrutiny. It becomes very obvious that this is just, okay, these are all the episodes you watched, and we're going to bring all, characters from all of those episodes in together for a big finale. And I can kind of buy that, but just the justification they gave makes it worse, in my opinion.
Bill,
yeah.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Were you like me and watched the episode with what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? That's the episode title, so that's not a spoiler. Did you get the feeling that was the biggest Marty stew ever?
It comes off that it was intended that way, and it makes sense as a standalone episode in being a joke in that way. But it's really weird to have some of these grimdark universes and this everything goes perfectly universe exist in the same multiverse and the same continuity. Like, the laws of causality seem different for that sort of joke universe than they would be for any other. Although, speaking of which, one thing the MCU has very clearly changed, and this was brought up by people watching Endgame, but it's even more explicit here, is that Infinity Gems clearly work outside of their own universe, not even just in different diverging paths from the same timeline, but in completely, universes with completely different powers, or different, well, as we've said, potentially even different laws of causality at this point.
Yeah. And if I remember the original comics, they were never supposed to work outside their own universes.
Correct.
So.
Yeah.
Which is why I had no problem with all the Infinity Gems in Loki, because the idea is, they wouldn't work once any sort of conflict happened outside of their original timeline.
We'll use them as paperweights. Yeah.
Another kind of nitpick I had, and some people I could see this. I mean, it kind of pissed me off too. It didn't piss me off as much as it could some people, and some people might consider it really a nitpick. But there's one episode in which Drax very explicitly uses a metaphor. And that kind of pissed me off because Drax's whole point isn't that he's dumb or that he can't speak proper English. It's, his main thing that they kind of flanderized over time was that he had trouble with metaphor and, that sort of symbolic speaking. So the fact that he uses a metaphor very obviously in one scene kind of annoyed me.
What universe was that Drax from?
That Drax was in the universe with the frat boy Thor.
Oh,
Okay.
not gonna lie, that must have, it's either that I missed it or I don't know, because I honestly didn't remember that happening.
At this age, it probably wouldn't be much of a spoiler if I said, do you want me to say what the line was?
Yeah, why not?
So he basically follows up on a line Thor said about somebody being a party pooper. And mentions that, he says it in a different way, he's like, you are the pooper of the party. But the metaphor itself is still part of the sentence. And there is no actual poop in that scene. So altogether, What If, because I don't want to go on too long, it was all right. It was not my favorite of the Disney Plus shows, but I didn't dislike it either. If you consider 5 to be mediocre, maybe in the 7+ range, 7 to 8. Definitely not anywhere close to something like a 9. So maybe 7 might be a little closer. But so I kind of enjoyed it, but it's not my favorite Disney Plus show.
All right. From there, we go to the next one, which was a movie.
Yep. On Monday, I ended up going to see the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die. And honestly, I don't know what my expectations were going in, especially because if memory serves, technically this was supposed to come out in 2019 and then got pushed back.
Really
and
late
then
2019
COVID
or
happened.
2020, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was late 20, probably was November of 2019, and then they pushed it back to March of the next year. Then COVID happened, so they kept pushing it back again and again and again and again, and then have just been fuck it, it's either now or we're not, sort of a thing. And I guess with all of the, at least the initial pushback, it's kind of makes you a bit wary. But honestly, I really like this movie. I would also
hear it's a real end of an era movie, isn't it?
Oh yes, I mean this is very clearly written as Daniel Craig's last hurrah. I mean, it kind of helps that they kind of knew going in that he would basically yeah, this is my last one. Which, I mean, he's in his 50s now, I'm pretty sure, so stands to reason. I mean, you really can only do this role for that long. Of course, it is kind of funny that he got 5 movies in over pretty much almost 2 decades. Oh, not 2 decades, more his first one came out in 2006. So
Almost. It's a little shy. A decade and a half.
But yeah, it's interesting as well because this is one that, so long as you've seen the other Craig movies at least once, you can basically go in. I'd feel like you can go in without having rewatched them, because I meant to but didn't. And I still could follow everything. I would say you would at least have to rewatch Skyfall and Spectre at the very least. Well, there's some callbacks to Casino Royale. Of course, no surprise that I do not recall if there is much mention of anything from Quantum of Solace, which is usually the one that everyone derides as like the worst of the Daniel Craig run. Well, it's either that or Spectre, depending on people's things. But you know, I really enjoyed the fuck out of this movie. The villain's pretty good. Although it's kind of funny because I don't know if I want to say it because it could I won't because like it could it'd give people the wrong idea, I guess, the comparison I was gonna make. But yeah. The villain was kind of like I've seen this sort of villain somewhere before. It diverts from the villain it made me think of, but yeah. But it is an interesting and fitting end to Craig's Bond. At least I feel, and I feel like the tension's a lot higher in this movie than a lot of other ones, just because of a certain element they introduced that I won't spoil. But yeah, this is, I'll put it this way: there's no coming back from this. If Daniel Craig randomly decided, I'll do one more, yeah, that ain't happening. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the hell the franchise goes from here.
I've heard they're debating casting a woman as the next James Bond or Jane Bond, but that's always been one of those rumors.
I mean, there is a woman who takes up the and it's not like something that happens at the end of the movie. It's been in the trailers and shit that, like, because Bond has retired at this point, retired at the end of Spectre, essentially, that the 007 designation was given to someone else, and it happened to be a woman. So
and doesn't she wind up like being his sidekick throughout the rest of the movie?
Essentially, yeah. Or like sort of here and there. And it's not even so much sidekick so much as like equal footing. But again, the main focus is obviously on James Bond. So it'll be interesting.
I was talking sidekick as the fact that the movie's primary protagonist is Bond.
Yeah. In that sense, yeah. But yeah, it will be interesting to see if they just kind of elevate that character and refer to the series moving forward as just 007 rather than referring to it as a Bond, and just use her, or if they do recast James Bond specifically, and just wipe the slate clean, or
If I
something to that
understand
effect.
right, James Bond's name isn't actually in any of the titles, right?
No.
So it's really just how the marketing team spends it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the world is not enough is the Bond family moniker sort of thing, the Bond family motto. But so that's the closest you get.
Yeah, it's usually 007 in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that kind of fits.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting to see where the franchise goes from here, though I expect there'll probably be, given how long there was of a break between some of Craig's movies, especially this and the last one, I figure they'll probably take a couple of years more off, wait until COVID's mostly dealt with, or just really stamped out, and then do something.
Or everybody's adapted.
Yeah.
This is the way the world works. It's how the world works with COVID.
But yeah, I definitely think it's worth checking out. But if you haven't seen the other Bond movies in a while, probably best to at least get a refresher of Craig's run. But so long as you've seen Craig's movies enough times, you probably won't need to.
All right. Was that it for Geek Talk?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Let us move on to our episode summary.
Alrighty.
Choose Alex again.
Yep.
You need to take a drink of water quick?
No, it should be right.
Alrighty. Stopwatch is ready.
Mm-hmm.
Are you good to go?
Yep.
Alright, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we open on a woman named Belle talking about the aftermath of the FLUX. We also occasionally cut back to her throughout the episode and learn she is Vinter's partner and also that she's pregnant with his kid. Meanwhile, with the main cast, we pick up where we left off, with the Doctor putting herself and Dan into the setup that Vinda and Yaz have been forced into, and throws them all into a time storm to try and protect them. We then spend the majority of the episode with everyone going through warped versions of specific memories they have, with the main cast showing up in place of people who were actually there in those memories. Dan has a warped memory of Diane. Yaz has warped memories of being in the police and talking to her sister, with it turning out her time stream was being messed with by a weeping angel that managed to get into the time storm. And Vinder's memory is finding out the backstory of how he ended up on that isolated outpost, which can be summed up as trying to do the right thing, but politics screwed him over. The primary memory worth mentioning is the Doctor's, as she relives a memory of the fugitive Doctor in which she came to the Temple of Atropos, managed to subdue Swarm and Azure, and also put the Mori in place at the temple, having hid them inside one of Swarm's passengers. The Mori in the Time Storm agree to replace the Mori that were killed to stabilize time again, and force the Doctor out of the Time Storm despite her protests about wanting to see the rest of what happened in her past. When this is resolved, Swarm and Azure taunt the Doctor by revealing that Diane is held within the passenger they arrived with before disappearing. The crew go back to the TARDIS and drop Vinder back on his home planet, which has been absolutely decimated by the FLUX. We then end on a weeping angel managing to come out of Yaz's phone and attempt to take control of the TARDIS, leaving us on a cliffhanger for the next episode.
Alright, done?
Yep.
You did it in 1 minute, 59 seconds.
It was a lot of like, here's what their memories were, and that's it, because that takes up like the
Here's
bulk
where
of
we
the
are,
episode.
and good day. Bye.
All
There was
right.
a lot of let's cut back to this scene. Okay, establish where we are because you're dizzy now. Okay, continue on for 30 seconds and then cut again.
Bounce, 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 bounce. Juggle, 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 juggle. All right.
Stir whip, stir whip, 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 stir.
All right.
Hey,
so
actually,
let's-
yeah, it's holiday season for perfect timely reference.
On Doctor, on yes.
Are you saying this is the Doctor Who Christmas special?
No,
Holiday
that's going
special?
to be even more fucked up because that's still
Yeah.
going to be Chibnall.
Uh,
Anyway, let's talk about what we liked about the episode. So let's be nice. Matt, you are first.
Oh boy. That's the general thing I liked about the episode. Oh gosh. You know what? Yeah, I can't think of her name. The gal that we start the episode off with.
Bell.
Bell.
She's generally an interesting character. She doesn't get much time, but she does do a lot of interesting stuff, and she's got an interesting story that does slowly reveals itself by the end of the episode, which is nice.
Bell and her Tamagotchi, yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and her fancy Tamagotchi thing.
Should we talk about what people are speculating with that character? That I I both don't buy, and I hope with every fiber of my being that the writers are not on the same page as that.
Mm.
The idea that Belle and Vinder are secretly the Doctor's parents, and that the Tamagotchi baby is, I guess, going to be sent back in time to become the future Doctor.
If they do that, we will start a fund to put a hit on Chibnall.
I've heard of
I am
worse
serious.
theories. To be fair, I think
We will
there
hire
are
a
worse theories.
we will start a donations page in which we will use to hire a professional assassin to kill Chris Chibnall.
As I mentioned in our group spoiler chat, I was like, what's almost worse about that theory is we know this baby's real birth name, and we're not meant to know the Doctor's birth name.
I mean, that might be the point that I leave Doctor Who in disgust.
I'm already
Honest to
worried I'm
God.
going to be at the end of this season, anyways.
I just wonder how the hell people got to that conclusion, because that's very much like, what kind of fanfic are you reading that you would unnecessarily assume that this is automatically going to be like, oh, well, these two people who are seemingly from modern day are going, well, modern day insofar as wherever the fuck they're from. Like, why would that necessarily, like, if I don't know, if there was more of a thing about that, to me this seems like it's just a reason to give Vinder something to do, that he has someone that he's looking for, rather than like it turning out to be, oh well, actually, because I don't know. That just seems like so much of a reach that people are either like, so it's like like,
Here's
even
the
with the
thing,
whole
though.
timeless child and everything, I don't get how people could make that much of a leap.
Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't put it past Chibnall to do that while thinking, what a twist! Which is why I'm glad he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Anyway, next on the list, Bill.
So mine actually goes kind of hand in hand with Matt's, and that is that I liked getting Vinder's backstory. He finally feels like a character and not just somebody who happens to be there. We know a little about him. We know a little about his morality. We know a little about his motivations.
Mm-hmm.
He's 1,000 times more of a character than he was an episode earlier.
Okay. You mean all the stuff they didn't do with Yaz?
Right.
Kind of.
Even though Yaz has had 2 seasons, we know Yaz used to be a cop, and we know she has a family.
Ta-da.
And that's
And
about
that she
it.
almost ran away one time.
Yep. That's about it.
And possibly that she doesn't like video games, but that might not be true because it's not really her time stream.
Right.
And she might have a crush on the Doctor. Might. That's basically all we know about Yaz. And that's after 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We know more about Vinder than we know about Yaz. Think about that. They did more with this character in 3 episodes than they did with Yaz in 2.5 seasons. And we're still getting nothing new on Yaz. Okay. So, Alex.
I guess I just liked that we had a bit of a fun. Like, I'm just glad that we have that whole, like, the memory that the Doctor's going through kind of elaborates on the relationship she has to Swarm and Azure a bit more, by seeing that, like, an encounter they had, because it's like, with how things normally go, I would have expected that sort of a reveal to have happened like in episode 5 or 6. So the fact that we got that like now is like, oh, thank God. Okay, at least we've seen this now, and we don't have to like wait until the end of the series to get it.
Except for the fact that at least for another episode, we might not even be seeing Swarm and Azure.
Hmm.
Because apparently next week's all Weeping Angels. And then we're down to episodes 5 and 6. So mine is similar to Alex's, only I'm glad that even though it's, a dangerous area, Chibnall's actually starting to address the whole previous Dr. Joe Martin bit. If this had been a Moffat story, he would have dropped that bomb on us in the previous season and then just dropped it. Would have left it hanging. Think about how often Stephen Moffat did that. Dropped a bomb and just let it hang. But at least Chibnall's going to do something about it. Whether we like it or not, he is at least going to tie up that thread.
Yeah.
And I have to give him credit for tying up the damn thread.
Which does make me wonder if that whole like thing about him having a plan the whole time in that way probably does hold some weight, because he wants to at least tie this up before he leaves.
Yeah, probably.
We'll see the execution of how it ties up and whether that's good or not, but he's at least trying to tie it up before he leaves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we don't like. Now we get to be naughty. Naughty. Matt, you're first.
Dear Chibnall, time doesn't work that way. This metaphysical nonsense is getting more broken by the minute, and the problem is it's not even metaphysical. It's literally supposed to be taking place on a planet in the universe called Earth. Or not Earth, time. And
really,
it's just...
Yes, this really reminds me of the Village of Christmas on the planet Trenzalore, where every day is Christmas.
Kill me.
Doesn't fucking work that way. And why would another planet give a shit about Christmas anyway?
I mean, the implication is that the Time Lords flat out named the planet, and like this is some
Even
Time
the
Lord.
Time Lords have more taste than this.
We're not the Gallifrey Lords, we're the Time Lords, and therefore this is the actual planet we're lords of.
This isn't even the Time Lords, it's the Division, which... Okay, I'm going to put my annoyance here just because it's feeding off of this.
Okay.
So they did this whole bit with the Division. They basically cribbed Captain Jack's backstory and tacked it onto the Doctor's backstory.
Which makes sense considering the Timeless Child looked like it was a Jack episode. Or that whole, that flashback bit.
Oh, yes, I used to work for this super secret organization. That wiped my memory. That's Captain Jack's backstory.
Yep.
But they're applying it to the Doctor, only now it's apparently that this organization is so powerful that they dealt with the setup of the universe and time in the Dark Ages instead of the Time Lords. I do expect this to be the kind of dickery the Time Lords would have done. But it's not them.
Well,
it's not them, and it's undermining, again, everything in the universe.
Is the Division run by Time Lords, or are there just some Time Lords in the Division?
We don't know dick about the Division, except for the fact that the Doctor was apparently part of them at one point, and apparently so was Carnavista.
And was Was the lady in Fugitive of the Jadoon who hired the Jadoon to find the doctor, was that for the Division?
No, that was a member of the CIA.
Hmm.
Although she might have also been working for the Division, I don't know, but she was.
For all we know, it's just CIA.
It might help if these organizations had, and I think we might have either we discussed this or I saw other people discussing it. If the name was a little less generic,
Yes.
it might be easier to remember what was and was not part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Division came up until until the Timeless Children, and it was in the memory that is like been fucked with, so we don't get to see the end of the conversation. Although that does make me wonder if that's why that memory was wiped, is that it was probably supposed to be talking about this, and like the Temple of Atropos and all that is supposed to be some like super secret shit that only the Division is supposed to know about, sort of a thing.
I could see that, because imagine some asshole like the Master getting their hands on the idea that there is a barely guarded temple that controls all of fucking time.
Oh yeah, he would try to use it to hold the universe hostage.
Like, is episode 6 going to be the Master showing up and dropping a nuke filled with Cybermen on Atropos?
No, that would actually save the plot.
But, here's my problem with the Division being part of the Time Lords. The name isn't pretentious enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're right about that one.
If it was like they were called the Arms of Rassilon.
Or Rassilon's realm or something.
Or
something Rassilon at base.
Yeah.
Well, the secret is that there's a division of Rassilon. There's also the addition of Rassilon, the multiplication of Rassilon, and the subtraction of Rassilon. But we haven't met them yet.
Don't make me get the staff of Rassilon, beat you about the head with it.
Just the name The Division is not Time Lord. It's not Time Lord pretentious. It sounds like it's another organization. Ugh.
It also just feels so wrong. Like, a lot of this really just feels, again, like a giant shoehorn.
It does.
It honestly feels like Chibnall's just pissing on the show before he leaves. He's going to come up with some answers, but they're not going to be ones we're liking.
Anyway, Bill, what do you dislike about it?
So the whole idea of the time streams, the mechanics they're using just don't make sense for what they say they are. They say that they're hiding people in their time streams to physically protect their bodies from being burnt out by a time storm. And yet what we see is that their minds are being shuffled about in their time stream, reliving memories, not actually changing their past in any way. Even to the point of Yaz is being fucked up, but it's not actually changing, her history and her personality. It's just part of this plot because something's weird is going on. But it doesn't make sense for the idea that they're physically being moved about in their time stream, because the effects would matter more. Like, when Vinder's talking to himself, people would more often be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And it would actually, things might actually play out differently if that were to happen, but everything is playing out exactly the way he remembers, or at least it seems to be based on his reactions. And even the stuff with the doctor, we see people react to the doctor, but it doesn't seem to be changing anything or in any meaningful way. So it just really seems more like being shuffled about inside their own brains, which you might do if you were trying to hide from Mr. Clever or some sort of telepathic entity. But it doesn't seem to do anything about protecting human biology from raw forces of nature that humans weren't made to withstand, which is what allegedly they're doing.
I will say, in addition to that, when the doctor almost immediately realized, hang on, what the fuck? I was like, oh, well, yeah, it would make sense for the doctor to become self-aware, but then everyone else becomes self-aware,
Hmm.
and I'm like, oh, if at least the doctor had realized, but the others hadn't, like maybe they realized, like the shift in location they noticed, and like, hey, wait, what? But other than that, they're just kind of going along with it. It probably would have. I mean, aside from Yaz's, where it's like intentionally being fucked with by the Weeping Angel, like there'd be some sort of hang on, wait.
Right.
But like, even like at least the other two, it probably would have made a bit
And-
more sense if they hadn't caught on.
It does. They still don't explain why the fact that Vinder was seeing Yaz all over the place
Right.
in his own memories.
Yeah,
which
Yaz
we're
was seeing
to be a-
Weeping Angels. Vinder was seeing Yaz. What the fuck?
I mean, we know why they were seeing the doctor, because the doctor was attempting to break through communication.
Right, but the doctor wasn't even like part of the Matrix. Like the doctor was explicitly like breaking the illusion.
Yeah. So why was Yaz there?
I feel like it's just because she was the only person out of the main cast that he knew prior to being plunged into that.
For about
It still
30
doesn't,
minutes.
it's a hand
it's
wave.
sure bad
but
writing.
Yeah,
still.
but that doesn't like she's not a Time Lord. She's not doing all this
Yeah.
stuff the doctor's doing.
Yeah, again,
but your
in short,
comment
bad
about
writing.
your comment about the doctor reminded me of something else about that, and it's that the doctor seemed to go back and forth. Sometimes she had all of the Ruth Doctor's memories in terms of like knowing where she was, what her objective was, and all those things. And sometimes she had none of those memories, had no clue what was going on. And it seemed to like it was like Two-Face was in her head flipping a coin every couple minutes.
I think at some point she was just playing out the role.
Mm.
You know, the memory, the time, the words were just coming to her because that's what happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then occasionally she would break out of it, which, you know, the others kept seeing as this time. And they never did explain why the fact that she was seeing Yaz, Dan, and Vinder in those roles.
Right.
Really, again, it just seems to be what
Although
the
I do
fuck.
think it was a nice touch that Dan was Carvanista, but still,
Yeah.
like that makes sense on a symbolic level, but it doesn't make sense in any other way.
No.
Again, unless like if this was not meant to be their physical bodies and it was only meant to be their minds, you could say, okay, half of the memory is coming through and the rest is being replaced by things that are familiar. But that doesn't solve the problem of the time storm ripping through their bodies, which is allegedly what they're trying to prevent in the first place. So it comes down to that whole apples are not oranges, and you're saying that oranges are going to fill the places of apples.
All right. Alex, what about you? Least favorite thing.
I guess and I wouldn't really call it like I would almost have saved it for a scene, but I feel like it's more of an aspect that I kind of agree. And it was something that I did realize only after the fact that I left out of the summary, and that is that like when the doctor briefly like gets kicked out of the thing into this thing with an old woman who brings up that the flux was placed, and whatever, it wasn't a naturally occurring thing, it was made and
that it was the
placed and all
doctor's
that.
fault.
Yeah, that I was like, because like with the Belle stuff, it's like, okay, we know who she is, we know what her deal is, but then you've done this little thing, and now you've introduced another hanging thing that we've got to solve later.
Thank you.
Like
I was going to
3
have to add
episodes
that
in.
to the end if it was not mentioned. But yes,
Yeah.
we're already halfway through the plot line and you're still adding bits and pieces. Chibnall? And I mean, you're devoting an entire episode to Weeping Angels next. So that means in the last two, you've got to figure out a way to close out all of these dangling plot threads. So now we have to figure out who this bitch is.
Yeah, that is like I get the idea of a season of stories like the Centaurans and the Weeping Angels that are all connected by this calamity. And I get the idea of a multi-episode serial that, you know, it's a serialized story and keeps adding things up until the finale like a serialized story does.
Mm-hmm.
But this season seems to be a weird blend of the two. And I mean, we'll have to see through the end to know how to really feel about that. But it seems like a really, really odd choice, and I'm not sure those ingredients fit together.
Well, I think the problem with it is that they're trying to make a serialized story while also throwing in a giant monkey wrench of all this extra new stuff that's literally coming out of nowhere and is baffling even fans.
Well, that's how serialized stories tend to work. Is that they keep surprising you until finally, once you know everything, is the climax. But the adding in these episodic elements kind of makes it really hard for that to be a coherent, cohesive story.
I think episode 2 did it well, but here
Yeah,
it's definitely not there.
episode
I mean,
2 was
but the thing
a
is,
little bit better on actually being cohesive story, whereas the
So-
rest of this is just
well, that-
random monkey wrenches.
that depends
Nah.
because we don't yet know if the Centaurans have anything to do with anything that comes in the future. So far, the only thing episode 2 did relevant to the ongoing story is it put Yaz in the tunnel with the Victorian guy with the laser pistol, which also happened to Dan this episode, and I think we also don't know why.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on with that plot line. We know the Weeping Angel one is coming to a conclusion. Did we just lose somebody?
Yes, we
Oh.
apparently lost Alex.
Oh, great. So yeah, we don't know what's up with the 19th century tunnelers. We don't know what's up with we know the Weeping Angels will get to their conclusion. We are still waiting for a conclusion with our two bad guys, except now there seems to be a new arch bad guy. And we also have to resolve the Bell plot line, which just started this episode too.
Unless that's where they're going to leave it.
I hope not. That would be terribad.
We never see Vinder or Bell ever again.
Yeah. I mean, I could see if they decide to do that for like the resolution for one of the specials.
Yeah.
But some of these plot lines, they need to just start tying them up now. And start with the explainy, because you're going to get into the second half of this now. You need to start having more conclusions than you do dangling threads. Okay, whose was that one?
Oh,
I know we
that
did
was the end of
mine and
Alex's.
kind of kept circling
that
back
was-
to it. I'm not sure if Alex said theirs.
Yeah, that was like branched off from mine.
Okay.
Okay. And we mentioned mine before.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going into favorite scenes. Matt.
Actually, yeah, I guess the dialogue with the Cyberman.
Okay, where she's interviewing the Cyberman.
Mm-hmm. She fights off the ones that attack her little ship, attacks Bell's ship, and there's at least a temporary bit of dialogue, as apparently the Cybermen are trying to learn what's going on. In particular, what's going on with this weird solo humanoid.
always amused how Cybermen don't even try to do the Dalek, Centaur, and Banter. No, you don't have the right to our privileged information. Cybermen are always just like, we'll give away all of our secrets. We don't give a fuck.
Well,
We don't
that's
care. Most
because
of you can't do anything anyways.
that's apparently because all the latest models took all the cunning out of the Cybermen. What I used to love, if we go back to the 80s Cybermen, is they would be discussing their inevitable betrayal of the bad guy right in front of all of us. You shouldn't have promised him, leader. He's an alien. Aliens are not to be trusted. Promises to aliens do not matter. You know, it's like they'd be doing this, and it's like, I'm still in the room. I can hear you.
So now we're to me.
Yes.
So I like the scene with Belle at the fireplace playing the recording of Vinder. It was a nice cap to both Belle and Vinder's subplots. It showed what role Belle really had in our character's story. We kind of knew she was searching for something and showing us more of the flux. But it actually gave us some connection to her character and the character aspects. And I just thought it was a good cap on those two subplots and a good kind of peek at what might be the future of those characters.
All right. Alex?
Hmm. Let's see. I feel like I had one. I'm trying to. Honestly, I'll go with the bit where the bit in the Doctor's memory where they capture Swarm and Azure. Just because honestly that whole thing I really liked, but generally, and of course part of it was just because if I'm honest, I kind of prefer that design of Swarm to the one we've had for the most part.
Related to that, that was a completely different actor. The wiki considers that a different incarnation of the character. And I think that's the first thing I've seen that lends any credence to the fan theory that Swarm is like some sort of corrupted Time Lord. I mean, other than the longevity, but I mean, we have a dog that's lived for thousands of years, apparently. So long, the whole idea of age limits, that lifespans, kind of goes out the window in stories like that.
I mean, generally, he absorbed someone's life force and it de-aged him. Is the thing I get. So, yeah. Of course, it's funny because
that changed his actor. So,
yeah, and of course, it is kind of funny as well. Now that I think about it, that Azure didn't seem to really change much.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe she's just a bit more gaunt in the face in the current story stuff, but that's about it.
All right. We're at me.
Yep.
Favorite scene. I had a few picked out. Now I need to rethink about them. I think the one that stands out to me at most is Vinder's choice. Submit it or walk away. And it goes to show that, he has this strong fiber of, what's of right and wrong. Meaning Vinder would be a good companion because he has that fiber.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think Vinder might have been named after that choice. Because I was trying to figure out why it rang a bell, and then I realized Alexander Vindman, the whistleblower for Trump, So now we have Vendor, the whistleblower for the Grand Serpent. If you're saying that's a coincidence, I find it hard to believe. I
You would have
think
thought
that
they would have made him oranger.
At the very least, that's a real world reference to something with a sci-fi take on it, I guess.
Mhm.
I will admit it's a lot more subtle than Chibnall's been doing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He's finally figured it out,
And
a
it's
little
and
too
it's
late,
one it's
but
it's one that would go over the heads of kids that adults might get.
mm-hmm. But it's not hammering it with a blunt mallet.
Right.
Finally, Chibnall, you're realizing how to do it. A little too late in your run. Yeah.
Way too
Okay.
late.
So, least favorite scene, Matt.
Which one do I pick? You know what? Let's just go right off the top of the start of the story. Not the start of the episode, start back to the start of the story, continuing again. We left off the doctor about to see Yaz and Vinter get fried. And what happens is apparently she slightly warps time to push herself and Dan into position to help do the whole rest of the plot.
I'm also pretty sure we didn't see her move before the finger snap last
Yes.
episode.
Yeah, so
Right,
the fact that
right.
this even happened means that they completely re-edited how that episode ended.
Although I forget if they
And
cut
shoehorned
away
in
from
her
her.
doing that.
I forget if they cut away from her and did a close up on Swarm for that scene.
I don't believe they did.
No, it's you see her standing next to Swarm.
Yeah, you see her standing right next to him just before he does it, and then he snaps his fingers to start whatever's supposed to happen.
Hmm. And I think it's
Yeah.
actually still on the shot of both of them when he snaps his fingers, and you see her reaction of her eyes going wide. So,
Yeah, they retconned that badly.
Mm-hmm. Things are already going at a per minute and right off the bat.
Mind you, it's not the first time they've done that in Doctor Who.
But yeah, but
It's the first time they've done it since the classic era.
Yeah. That kind of change is what gets people strapped to a bed and hobbled. And that's not a threat, that's a literary reference before the MI6 or something gets on my case. I make it clear I am not threatening Chibnall at this current moment.
Oh, I am.
I'm about ready to. This better start straightening it out real fast, Chibnall. Anyways.
Right.
Anything else on
Bill.
that? All right.
You-
So the flux causes planets, unless they have literal plot armor like Earth, it causes planets to basically disintegrate, annihilate, cave in,
Exterminate.
etc. It does not cause a nuclear, it doesn't destroy things on the planet, it destroys the planet itself. So how the fuck did they bring Vendor back to his planet, which they said, it must have been destroyed by the flux? If it was destroyed by the flux, there shouldn't be a planet to land on. What the fuck?
That's the thing. I get the feeling that Vinder was not just part of one planet. He was part of some kind of galactic alliance, federation, etc. So the planet you see getting annihilated while Vinder's looking.
But when they land on the planet, they say, it must have been the flux. The flux must have hit here too. If the flux hit here too, there wouldn't be land for you to land on.
That is very true.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, it seems that a lot of I think a few of the planets that Bell ends up on are supposed to have been potentially hit. It's just that they weren't hit as bad or something.
They were hit by economic ramifications.
It was more like
or whatever.
the ramifications, not the actual flux itself that hit him. For Bell.
Like they were hit by shit like Cybermen.
And Daleks, etc. Yeah.
And day turning into night in like 2
Rapid.
seconds somehow.
So seriously, anybody seeing Vendor at the end of that really want to just like start the theme from Fallout 4? Because it literally looks like he's just in a wasteland.
I have no Fallout frame of reference. Sorry, I know vague references of it, but that's it.
I guess I'm by myself there.
Actually, what I would prefer is to see him walking down the road with his back to us. Maybe. That's a real Fallout reference.
Yeah. The Wanderer. Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
No, that would be Alex next.
Alex,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Least favorite.
Let's see. You know, as much as I feel like it can be hand waved by just he's the kind of villain that wants to fuck with them all first. It is kind of funny that, at least with what we have now, that, you know, with as powerful as they seem to be, Swarm and Azure are just kind of like, well, you know, you solved the problem here, but yes, it unleashed this thing, so, you know, we could kill you right now, but we're just gonna fuck off.
Oh yes.
Oh, and we have more victims with us. Bye-bye.
Yes.
I have to agree.
They might just be the kind of villains that are like, oh, you know, I want to torture you first, sort of a thing. But even then, it's still like, we have you at our mercy essentially, but we're gonna just leave.
I think their idea of revenge is torturing and outsmarting the Doctor, but honestly, just like killing Yaz in a less convoluted way would also torture the Doctor and would be a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
I'll kill them in a church.
And even then, the Master has like literally tortured a companion before, at least once.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, a few times.
A few times, yes.
Has the Master killed a companion?
No.
Don't think so, no.
Directly. The Master's
tried
indirectly
a few occasions and failed, but never quite succeeded.
The closest the Master ever got to that is killing himself.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Killing himself kind of counts as killing a companion.
I mean, you know, tortured the fuck out of Adric. Tortured the fuck out of Bill. Did some pretty bad torture to pretty much everybody involved in Martha's family, plus except Martha, who got away.
Right.
Oh, and Jack.
And Jack. Yeah, I think he might have killed Jack a few times, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, Jack just hops back.
No, most of the other times
that might make the Master the Doctor's least effective arch nemesis, except maybe the Sontarans.
I don't know. I mean, the Cybermen get points for killing Adric. Didn't the Daleks kill and Bill? So they've got 2 points.
The Daleks have killed at least a handful of companions, or at least partial companions.
No, well, I remember
the Cybermen are also partially responsible, at least, for the death of the first Doctor.
Oh, true.
And the regeneration of 12. So
the Cybermen and Daleks share blame for Rose's death from this universe.
Doesn't count. She's still alive.
Seemingly, I think the most the Master has is essentially causing the death of the 4th Doctor.
Yes.
Indirectly,
yes.
He indirectly helped kill the 4th Doctor, and just became
Isaac
a shark
Newton
in
has
the...
just as much blame.
And just after he supposedly helped kill the fourth Doctor. He's just became a shark that's smelling blood in the water.
Yeah, after that, it's just like, I got to do that again. Oh, what a rush.
I want to kill another one. Yes, Doctor.
But yeah, the most successful enemy against the Doctor is the Cybermen,
Yep.
with 2 Doctor killings
And 2 companion
two
deaths.
companion killings. Yeah, the Daleks don't add up to that. The Daleks have
Cybermen,
never
officially
killed.
biggest badasses in the universe.
No, the Daleks have 1 kill on the Doctor when 10 regenerated into 10.
Kind of, sorta.
Mhm.
Otherwise, what's her name? They also killed
Sarah Kingdom, I think.
Sarah Kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it, though. They're just 1
Yep.
and 1. The
Like-
Cybermen have them double beat.
Like from a symbolic narrative perspective, the Daleks have Susan, but that's from a narrative perspective. That's definitely not something the Daleks successfully did.
Yeah, the Cybermen are ahead. You ever wonder, if you ever got into another one of those Dalek versus Cybermen dick waving contests?
The
You
only
managed
thing
to
a
kill the
Dalek is
Doctor once.
the only
We
thing the
killed
Daleks
him
are more
twice.
successful at is failing to stop the Doctor more than us.
Where did this tangent start?
Like my least favorite scene. I'm stalling because I'm trying to think.
Gotcha.
Personally, I actually have to tack off of Alex's. I think the what is your plan to rule in hell is the biggest cornball line I have heard this entire season.
Yes, Swarm is really not winning any points over.
Which that was also the Cybermen stole that with kind of, I don't know if I would say a better version of it, but they kind of already had the same line this episode.
And it was not the Cyberman version was not as corny as that one.
Yeah, the Cybermen's, while slightly off logic, is still, we shall control everything. We shall be masters of what remains of the universe.
When the universe ends, the Cybermen will be in control. That's basic Cybermen, yeah.
There is logic in what he says.
But yeah, this is, what are we going to do to rule hell? I'm like, no.
Love is not a quest.
No, you're just being hammy and corny at that point. And since when do aliens believe in hell?
Demons? I don't know.
And I mean, isn't there already a ruler of hell? What's his name? Satan? Well, isn't that special?
The little skull man wants to go visit his buddy Satan. Ain't that special?
Wants to be
I do my little karaoke dance and I do it like this. Hit it, Carl! Anyway, yeah, that for me just came off as just total cornball. Total, and I mean, the guy playing Swarm was massively overacting on it too.
Wait, he has another mode?
This was a little higher than normal. I mean, normally he has it ranked to 11. This was about a 13. And I'm seriously, it's like,
I wonder if this man has any more scenery he can eat.
The villain that just wants to watch the universe burn, wasn't that John Sims' master?
Mm-hmm.
Did we really need another one?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that was my least favorite scene. Okay, final thoughts. Matt.
This is still being very frustrating. It's still very nonsensical what they're trying to accomplish, and it really feels like they're hammering in these ideas without really a proper thought as to how this is messing with continuity. The main villain is still a ham, and not a particularly good one. The side characters that have less time in the show are actually better than some of the main characters. And the show also introduced yet more questions, and we're about to hit past the halfway mark here. So, yikes.
All right.
Okay.
That all
So
you have
I'm
to say? Okay.
you're all set,
Bill.
right?
That was
Okay.
good.
So I'm surprised I actually managed to get all the interesting things I had to say fit into everybody else's likes and dislikes. I thought I was going to have to blurt out a bunch of stuff in my final thoughts, and I ended up not having anything saved specifically for that. I will say I'm glad we're not rating this because it's a mess of really interesting scenes in a really convoluted, not really fitting together whole. And if we had to rate this, I would be like, oh, why can't I go last and see what everyone else is rating it? And then I'd still be indecisive. So I'm really glad I'm not giving just this episode a rating. It's weird. Again, I like bits of it, but I don't know how I feel about it as a whole because the glue holding them together is really weak.
I have a place. I have a hole this entire series so far can go up, but we'll see. We'll see how it ends.
Yeah, so hopefully the episodes 5 and 6 kind of wrap things up a bit more tightly. But we have episode 4 to go through first, and that it at least seems to be episodic. But maybe that's why we haven't gotten a trailer. Maybe it's actually because they can't do a trailer without spoiling things, and it's not because of labor issues at the BBC. Who knows? On to Alex.
Uh,
Mm.
it's kind of funny because of all of the episodes we've got so far, I realized that I retained the most of this one thus far without needing a rewatch, which is weird to me because like there's a lot of scatterbrain stuff going on. But I guess like even with my summary was very short, but I guess that's just because for as long as the episode is, ultimately not that much happens.
There's a lot of
Mm.
padding.
Yeah. Um which it is again kind of disappointing, as was brought up before, that we still don't have much more with Yaz when they probably could have used like her being plunged back into her own timeline sort of thing and having to relive certain memories to expand on her a bit more rather than just
Yaz in
the
primary school. Yaz in secondary school. Could you just see a thing of her, still in her adult form, walking around a primary school, talking to Dan, who's acting like a fellow primary school kid. Just the sheer mindfuckery of that episode, or that scene itself, would have been worth it. But they passed on it.
Hmm. Funny thing is it actually would have been an excuse to bring in either Ryan or Graham again briefly to have like stuff that happened with them when the Doctor wasn't around.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
allow
that 6 months when Yaz seemingly abandoned her job and just lived in the TARDIS.
Mm. Yeah, like for as much as there is with this episode that's either at least sort of annoying or like could have been more. I'm just glad that we've at least moved the continuation of the plot along and tied it back to the timeless child stuff. So it does look like we'll maybe being resolved. Like, I guess that is the one thing that I'm curious about now is if we're actually going to full on wrap everything up by the end of episode 6, or if this is going to be a thing where like a plot will be resolved by that, and then the rest of it will be over the course of the next 3 specials.
I hope not.
you know, I could kind of see like the Swarm and Azure stuff being wrapped up by episode 6, but then like there being some stuff left hanging to be capped off with the things. But I would hope that it would be more like the side plots, like Vinda and Bell. Like that I would be fine with, but like and like other stuff
This plot's
being
padding is coated for
sorted by now.
softness.
But yeah, like we'll see where it goes. I'll put it this way: I'm not necessarily as cautiously optimistic as I was when we started, but I'm still kind of waiting to reserve full judgment until we do have the final episode to look at.
You done?
Yep.
All right. So this episode is a convoluted jumble that feels to me like, being given a jigsaw puzzle with all the pieces mixed up, but before you can start piecing together, somebody hands you another box with more pieces and just pours them all over the puzzle. I'm not sure which pieces belong to which plots anymore, and whether they're supposed to be resolved in this or left for the specials or what's going on. I don't know if the chaos of this particular series is supposed to reflect the chaos going on in the show, but it is leaving me scratching my head and a lot of times basically going, no, it doesn't work that way. As obviously the writers haven't actually thought about how stuff generally works in the Doctor Who universe.
Or someone told them that Doctor Who isn't great about things working consistently anyway, so just wing it. Don't worry about it. I could see some showrunners doing that.
Yeah.
M-
Either
my
way,
my my feeling is if you've ever seen the Monty Python sketch with the mafiosa guys. What a lovely show you got there, Colonel. Be a shame if something happened to it. Oh, look at that.
I don't feel quite that way, but I feel like
I'm very worried it's about to go that way, but we'll see.
well, you know the old story about an infinite amount of monkeys?
Yeah,
In a room with an infinite amount of typewriters, eventually they'll crank out the works of Shakespeare. I think this is an earlier attempt.
much earlier attempt. Actually, you know what? It actually feels like more like it feels like a bunch of people's in a room going, "Me clever, you clever, keep writing."
I will say Chibnall has gotten better. He has learned to be subtle. Good Chibnall. But I think they really tried to overblow this special. And, too many cooks, I think at this point, might have
Mm-hmm.
happened. They still have 3 episodes to wrap it up. We'll have to see if they come anywhere close. Knowing Doctor Who, they'll still have all the plot hanging till the last minute and then try to piece it together in the last episode poorly.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're done to the last puzzle piece, and you literally have to hammer it in with a mallet because it's not the right one anymore.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's our final thoughts. Bill?
Hey, so if you're watching this video on demand, don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts on how Flux is going so far. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to keep getting our exports every week. I've been trying to still get them out earlier than I normally would since these are new releases. And also, don't forget to follow us on Twitch to get our streams every Tuesday night.
Next week, we're finished with the first half. Now we go on to the second half. Next time, it's episode 4, Village of the Angels, written by Chris Chibnall and Maxine Alderton, the first time someone else has gotten a partial writer credit this season. And starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Mandeep Gill as Yaz, and John Bishop as Dan Lewis, with Jacob Anderson as well. Actually, we don't know if Ender will be back next week or not. We'll find out next week.
Oh boy. See you all then.
See you then.